Hey guys, welcome to another Reaper blog video. Today I'm sitting down with Kolby Heiss. He's a sound designer, he works on games, and he releases music under the name Neon Runner. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, John. Yeah, it's great. I'm really excited to be here.
So you're a Reaper user as well?
Yes, absolutely.
So when did you start using Reaper?
So I started using Reaper about 3 years ago, I think. I started using it because I had mistakenly upgraded my OS on my Mac to Mavericks, and my Pro Tools 8 LE didn't work anymore. I was pretty frustrated trying to figure that out, but I remember one of my professors in school telling me, like audio school, he told me there was a program called Reaper. It was really cheap. Like if you ever want to do sound design or something like that and you don't have access to something else, just get a license to that. So I looked it up and it was like $60 and I was like, What does this really do? You know, I was like, can it do everything Pro Tools does? And I was fascinated when I found out that it has almost everything and more than Pro Tools. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's a pretty similar experience to me. It's just really frustrated with Pro Tools after like 5 years of use and it just crashing every day.
Yeah,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Bad memories. So your music is in the synthwave, retrowave sort of genre. What is it about that genre that fascinates you or wanted you to get into that?
Yeah, that's a really hard question to nail down, but the way that I got into it was through a couple different mediums, video games and movies. Specifically, I mean, the most obvious one was Drive.
Yeah.
You know, that's like a classic synthwave, like, great score to that and great like soundtrack and
great film overall.
And great film, yeah. I really do love that film. And then I played Hotline Miami, if you're familiar with that. I'm sure you are. So I played that game and I wanted to make that music. I wanted to create that kind of vibe, and this was at the same time that my Pro Tools wasn't working, and I was like, I want to make this, and then so I kind of went out and tried to make an album as cheaply as I possibly could. And that was Neon Runner. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah.
How long did that album take you?
I worked on it off and on for about a year, and it was like I'd go like a couple months without doing anything, and then I would go like a month straight where I was just writing stuff, and and then sometimes it was just weekends here and there I'd do some things, but it was about a year, I think.
Cool.
Yeah.
Did you kind of do different phases, like consciously, like breaking it up into songwriting sessions, sound design sessions, playing with keyboards, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, for sure. I would usually get like the structure of a song down, and then I might tweak it here and there. I had everything, like all the tracks laid out at one point, and a few other tracks that I ended up cutting, but all laid out, and then I went into a mixing phase and did all that kind of stuff.
You really broke it up into different phases.
Yeah.
Cool.
So sometimes my writing and mixing kind of meshes together a little bit, and I was trying to stop that, but it's almost involuntary at some points, where you're going to put a little verb on something here, there, and you're doing mixing, but it's still part of the creative process.
With synthwave, you got to have that gated reverb on the snare, or it doesn't sound right.
You got to sidechain some stuff before it sounds like you want it to. So,
I totally understand that. What virtual instruments, or did you use any outboard equipment for that?
There wasn't any outboard gear in that album. I do actually have a couple pieces now that I'm using. I'm using a Korg Volca FM that I got last year, and a Microbrute as well, and a Korg Volca sample as well. So I'm starting to incorporate that into some of the new stuff that I'm doing, but for that album it was almost all virtual stuff. So it was kind of interesting to just do it that way, where it was just all in the box, and I used Synth 1
Synth
all the time because I love Synth 1, and so that was like the big instrument was a lot of Synth 1, and then a lot of different sample packs of like drums and stuff that I used for it. So yeah.
Does the songwriting process start with an idea from a synth, or usually a drum beat?
It's kind of just like a vibe I want to get for that specific track, and like the track Sacred Jungle took me I think I went through 5 different versions of that song before I got it to where I actually wanted it to be. And same with Masked Man. That was another one where it was just like, I want this horror element. That one actually came together really quick because it was just like, oh, this sounds like, you know, something that's from a horror film, and I kind of wanted to do like a Halloween-esque sort of like song.
Yeah.
So, and that was like, that's kind of how I do it. It's like I'll come up with an idea that's a vibe or a feeling I kind of want to get from the notes and the music, and then if I can get to that goal, that's the real challenge, and that's the whole songwriting process for me is that. So yeah.
Musically, what inspires you? Films or different artists and things like that for your music?
I'm a big 80s film guy. Like I watch a lot of, like, you know, The Thing, or Escape from New York is another good one, or Big Trouble in Little China, which are all John Carpenter movies.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of John Carpenter's scores, so I really like film soundtracks that way. You know, they're kind of droney, and there's a lot less of a standard beat, you know, like a standard every 8 bars you got to switch to something.
Right.
You know?
It's less more dance music.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but I kind of incorporated a little more dance into my music. But I like to say that I've taken a lot more from a film perspective and incorporated it into like a dancey kind of music album. So, yeah. So like stuff like that, like a lot of John Carpenter and Vangelis, you know, like Blade Runner, like stuff like that is the like stuff that I really like to listen to. I actually picked up The Thing soundtrack on vinyl yesterday, so yeah, pretty excited about that. Yeah.
Very cool. Were there any Reaper features that really helped along with the songwriting?
Reaper's great. Like it's got all the features I need, and there's nothing Reaper specific with this album that like really stood out to me, but like there are some great features that I use for sound design all the time that Reaper has that are just awesome. Like multi-tabbing sessions is amazing. Like if even for mixing, sometimes I just, because I have all my separate sessions, and then you know, I'd be mixing something and I'd want to tab into another session and mix that a little bit more or whatever, just to tweak it to the similar kind of mix. You know, so can't recommend Reaper enough, honestly.
Tell us about that game that you released last year.
It was called The Next World, and it was a VN style game, so a visual novel for people that don't know. It's basically like a story. There's some gameplay elements where you have to build a colony, like you crash land on a colony or a planet that's abandoned, and you have to survive in a hostile environment, and there's some drama going on with the crewmates that you have, and it was interesting because it was kind of a little bit of an 80s tweak there to it, you know? It's like one of those like 80s sci-fi movies is kind of how I envisioned it, so I kind of, you know, did the sound effects like that, you know, little bleeps and bloops for the voices and stuff like that, and yeah.
Cool. How about some features in Reaper that are really helpful for sound design?
Yeah, so I used the batch processing. I had to go on the Reaper forums and look around a bit, but like once I figured out how to, you know, actually do all the batch processing for a bunch of stuff, like it was really great because there was a lot of sound that some other people were giving to me that I was kind of overseeing, and so like just being able to batch process some things in different ways to mesh them together a little more was really nice. So yeah, that was definitely a good feature to have. Any
other equipment in the studio that you use? Recommend?
I would really recommend the Volca series. I mentioned that before, but like those things are $150 and they're just awesome. Like so many little things you can do, and like it's just a cool thing, and you just take it with you, and you know, you're in the car or something, you just plug it in, and you know, or you don't even have to plug it in, you just plug in some headphones and you just jam out for, you know, I can sit there for hours and just jam on those things. So cool. Yeah.
You were telling me earlier that you're more interested in field recording, and you're doing a bit of that these days. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah, so I joined a Wildlife Sound Recording Society, they're called. They're based out of the UK, and they have a lot of really great information on doing nature recording. And so they do a lot of bird sounds and recording a lot of birds. They do recording of like falcons and birds of prey and stuff like that. It's really interesting, but they do all sorts of things, and it's crazy because you'll see like videos of guys where they have put a mic in a bird's nest, like, you know, they leave that recorder there for several days just to try and get the right sound. And so that's a really interesting part of sound that I'm getting into now.
Yeah.
It's more going out and just trying to get those sounds in like a raw environment, rather than, you know, mostly in sound you're in an isolated booth where you're trying to get the only that sound. And
Yeah.
with location and nature recording, it's like you're fighting with a lot of other things, but this is like a whole new world to me now. So, because I've been doing sound for 6 years now, and this is just a really fascinating aspect of it, is trying to get really unique bird sounds. And I actually got a good 3 or 4 minutes of usable frog sounds from last year that were just really incredible. And I used that in actually Sacred Jungle. The frogs in that are something that I've recorded. And same with the lake. There's lake sounds that I actually kind of cut up and I put in sort of like a beat a little bit. And that's Lake Okanagan from where I'm from. So it was really nice to be able to put those elements of that into something I was doing musically that's, sound effects rather than music. But yeah, it's just, it's another little aspect of sound that I'm really passionate about.
It's really cool to like go out into the woods and just like listen.
Sit there and listen. Yeah, it's I hesitate to say it's like a spiritual experience, like, because you're out there and it's just you and your recorder and the sounds around you. And it was really eye-opening the first couple times I did it, and it was like you just get hooked. Like you just want to go back out and do it again. And yeah, I'm really excited for the spring because I want to get back out there, but I'm scared to take my recorder out and with snow, like I don't want to drop it. Yeah.
So what are you using for equipment for that?
So I use a Zoom H6. I used the H4n a couple years ago, but I found the preamps were a little too noisy on it. Yeah, and even on the H6, there's a little bit of noise there, but it's better now. And just having 4 inputs plus the XY pair on the Zoom is just great because you can have a bunch of mics. Like I was saying, I just used the XY pair on like some insects that were in the grass, and then I focused an NTG2 on like a creek bed that was nearby. So, and that was a pretty good recording of mine. So yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Anything else coming up in the future?
Yeah, so I'm working on a new album. I don't know when it's going to be released, so don't ask me that. But the last album was all synth, and it was all in the box. So I'm trying to do some more outboard stuff, and trying to incorporate some guitar into it, and maybe get some vocals here and there. Might just be doing, like cutting up some little vocal samples or something like that, but I'm still trying to work out those kinks. But I think it's going to be a lot more interesting than the last one because there'll just be more moving parts rather than just straight synth. So it'll be a little bit more interesting, yeah.
Cool. How much do you enjoy the production process compared to when it's done? Like, is finishing the album more important than like the journey?
Finishing the album is stressful.
Yeah.
Like, it's when you first because that was the first thing I created like that, and it was like putting it out there. It's like, what are people gonna say about this sort of thing? And it's like a lot of self-doubt, But
sure.
But I think I enjoy the process more. I think because once you get something that you're happy with and you're, like jamming out in your studio, they're just listening to it. Like I'll put something on basically repeat and I'll just leave it on and I'll just walk around and be doing chores or whatever listening to it because I enjoy it that much. And I think that's the moment that I know this is something I want to keep and I want to like make even better. And I think that's the most exciting part for me about production. So yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in and answering my questions. Great to meet you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
So guys, if you're interested in Kolby's music, there will be links in the description. You can go check out the album and see more information about the game. You can get it on Steam, right?
Yeah, it's on Steam. Yeah.
Cool. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Support the Reaper blog through Patreon, patreon.com/thereaperblog, and visit reaperblog.net for a lot more tutorials. See ya.